sahlan. First of all, on behalf of the family, I just wanted to make sure that every single person who is here today, we want to thank them for being here. We want to thank all the speakers who have illuminated so many different parts of my father's intellectual and professional life, as well as his friendship. There are several things I want to talk to everybody about. One of them is, we all know there is a proverb that says, if you want to go far, you go alone. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And this is a testament to exactly what has happened and what we heard today about all these serendipitous meetings with different people and how they all came together. And you heard all these names. I met this person here and I met him here. And then we both drove all the way from Ohio, from Cincinnati, from Pennsylvania, from Virginia, from New York. And we met with this person. And then we went to Khartoum and we went to Saudi and Mecca and Tunis and all these, and France and England. And we had these meetings and we had all these things coming together for the sake of the Ummah, a group of men beyond the ones that were mentioned today. And of course, they are the best of friends. They are the soulmates of my father, Dr. Ismail al-Farouqi, Dr. Ahmed Tutunji, Dr. Jamal Barzanji, Dr. Hisham, Dr. Yaqub, Dr. Anwar Ibrahim, and Dr. Amr Kassouli, as well as the new generation that is working on the same issues, people that are his students. دكتور فتحي ملكاوي طبعا يعني صديق الوالد أيضا من السبعينات, and so many other names that were mentioned today. It gave me a lot of pleasure to hear those names, some of them deceased. Dr. Tahir Jaber Alwani طبعا أيضا, and please forgive me if I forget any names. But it was all about inclusion. How do you bring people? How do you see the best side of them? How do you bring that best side of them, the engineers and the physicists and the social scientists and the philosophers and the religious leaders? How do you bring and see what is best in them and bring that for the Islamic work of the Ummah? I remember one time somebody came and asked my father a question and he answered it, and the man said, I asked you the same question 20 years ago, and my father says, I don't recall. And he said, but you said exactly the same answer. And my father laughed and he said, because whenever I answer, I have deeply thought about what the answer should be. And so he went through a certain process to get to an answer. And that is why he has such strong convictions. They were not glib, they were not easy, they were not superficial. But what made my father very different from a lot of people was the ability to really deeply think about issues and put them in a modern and historical context and hold contradictory ideas together and bring them to a conclusion that makes sense. But as a daughter, I think we had something that other people didn't see. People talked about his consistency in thought at work. But my father was consistent in every single thing that he did. He was consistent in his values. He is the same exact person. He lived exactly the same if you saw him outside or inside of the house. He never changed. My father had extreme high morals, أخلاق عالية جدا جدا, until the very last minute of his life. And as you know, he was extremely sick for a few years, especially in the past 6 months. But what he never lost was his extreme politeness to everybody, his extreme consideration for everybody. And as somebody said, he was extremely zen. He was unflappable. Nothing ever truly made him react with surprise. And maybe this is something that I remember the first time that I talked about this, and I don't know if my brother Ayman knows this or not, but my brother Ayman, about 30 years ago, got in a very serious accident, and they thought that he had died. And somebody calls my dad and says, and it was 1 week before his wedding, and somebody calls my dad, and I see my dad's face become white. And then he, asks a couple of questions, and then he puts the phone down, and he tells my mother, إنه أيمن كان في ذمة الله, in a extremely soft voice. There was no hysterics, there was no anger, there was no anything. It was sort of like this calmness that I've seen over and over and over, but this was an extreme. And my mother just gets up and gets her headdress to go out with my father. And my brother Yasser and I will look at each other and we think, what just happened? Because it couldn't be what he said, because how he said it does not, compute with the severity of what was said. So that was my father. My father was extremely zen, was extremely calm. I also remember one time he asked me to help him with one project, and I moved everything to help him with that project. And I thought I could help him, and I wasn't able to, and it didn't materialize. And I went to him, and it was something that was very extremely close to his heart in the past few years before he became ill. And I told him, Baba, I'm not able to do it. We can't do it. And I know how important it was to him. And it was such a heavy, heavy moment to go to my dad and show him that what he really wanted to get done wouldn't be done. And he looks at me and says, did you try your best? And I said, I tried my best. There's nothing else I could do. He said, then it wasn't meant to be. ربنا ما أراد. And I sat and I looked at this man who I know how important this project was for. I've heard him talk about it, discuss it, fight about it with others who didn't believe in it, and persuade them that this is really the next step for the work. And I remember learning the most humble lesson, that you can only do what God wills, and that we're all tools for Allah's will. My father was just a better tool than most everybody else I knew. I'm so happy that there's so many students who are listening to us and so many people from IIIT, because these are the people that will carry on the work. These are the people who will understand how important it is not just to do the work, but also to carry on the akhlaq al-aliyah, and to include people, and to bring people together, and not to look at their negative points of view. My father always said, I always work with the strong points of somebody, and I don't go into the bad points. I try to concentrate and focus on how to utilize the strong points, because it is only through inclusion that the ummah can truly rise again. And this is all what he cared about. And this is all what every single person in this Zoom cares about. An-nahda, an-nanhad with our civilization, bi-akhlaq aliyah jiddan, at a time of great challenge. I thank you again for all your kind words and for allowing me to have the family representation. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah.